In this episode, we'll explore what happens when emotional regulation breaks down temporarily and why these moments are part of ordinary human experience. So far, we've talked about emotional regulation as a process that supports how emotions move and settle over time. It is shaped by routines, context, and capacity. What we have not yet explored is what happens when that system is overloaded. Everyone experiences moments where emotional regulation feels harder to access. These moments are often described as feeling overwhelmed, snappy, shut down, or unusually reactive. What matters is not that regulation breaks down, but how we understand those moments when it does. Emotional regulation is not an infinite resource. It relies on energy, attention, and recovery. When demands accumulate without sufficient rest or support, the system becomes stretched. Small things can then trigger larger reactions. Have you noticed times when something minor felt disproportionately difficult? One common sign of stretch regulation is reduced tolerance. Sounds feel louder, interruptions feel sharper, requests feel heavier. This is not because those things have changed, but because capacity has reduced. When regulation is under strain, the margin for error narrows. Another sign is emotional spillover. Feelings linked to one situation leak into another. Frustration from work appears at home. Tension from early in the day shows up in later conversations. Do you recognize these moments when a reaction does not quite match the situation you are in? You can't see it, but my hand is up, because I sure do. Emotional regulation can also break down through withdrawal. Some people become quieter, less responsive, or mentally distant when overloaded. This is often misunderstood as disengagement, when it is actually a way of conserving limited capacity. When you feel stretched, do you tend to pull back or push through? Sleep disruption is another common factor. When sleep is reduced or irregular, emotional regulation becomes harder to maintain. Reactions become quicker. Recovery takes longer. This is not a flaw in coping, it is a predictable effect of fatigue on the nervous system. It is important to say that breakdown does not mean failure. It means the system is signaling that limits have been reached. Emotional regulation is not about never tipping over, it's about how quickly balance can be restored once things settle. Many people judge themselves harshly for these moments. They expect consistency regardless of circumstances. In reality, regulation is dynamic. It shifts with stress, health, workload, and relational demands. What changes when you interpret these moments as information rather than personal shortcomings? Understanding breakdown also helps explain why support matters. Regulation is not only an individual process, it is influenced by environment and relationships. Feeling understood, having space, or reduced demand can all help regulation recover. Counseling and therapy often work with these moments, not by preventing them, but by making sense of them. When people understand what stretches their regulation, they can recognize early signs and respond with more awareness. These moments also point toward boundaries. When regulation breaks down repeatedly, it often signals that limits are being crossed or ignored. Boundaries are not just interpersonal rules, they are ways of protecting regulation capacity. This leads directly into the next concept, which we will discuss in the next episode, where we'll explore what boundaries actually are in everyday life and why they are central to emotional stability, relationships, and well being. That's the scope of this episode. Each episode focuses on one specific theme, and this was it. We'll leave it there for now and move on in the next episode.